Hey kids, it's July 1st, Wednesday. I'm sitting in the living room and it's already evening. I had a very good day today. I went to the office and made good progress on some of the initiatives we've been working on. Then this evening we had dinner together in the garden as a family. That was precious. In these talks, I want to spend quite a lot of time discussing human behavior, how we make decisions, how our minds work, why we react the way we do, and why we sometimes do things that don't make any sense, even to ourselves. These are personal interests of mine as well. I genuinely enjoy reading and learning about psychology, behavior, and decision-making. Years ago, your mother and I went to Thailand for our honeymoon. That was probably 11 or 12 years ago now. While we were there, we visited a place in Pattaya called the Million Years Stone Park. It had all sorts of wild animals. You could ride elephants, take photographs with tigers, and feed crocodiles. To be honest, your mother and I no longer feel comfortable with many of those activities. We don't think it's fair to the animals. But at the time, we tried feeding the crocodiles. You stood on a platform above a large enclosure filled with them. You were given a simple wooden pole with a rope attached to it, and at the end of that rope was a large piece of raw chicken. Below us were these enormous, ancient-looking creatures. Huge bodies, stone-like faces, eyes barely moving, completely still. I lowered the chicken until it was only a few centimeters above one crocodile's nose. Nothing happened. It didn't blink. It didn't move. It didn't even seem interested. For a moment, I genuinely wondered whether it was alive. Then, as I slowly started moving the chicken, it must have reached exactly the right position. Suddenly, bang! Its jaws snapped shut. No warning, no wasted movement, no drama, just action. That moment stayed with me, because the crocodile wasn't lazy. It was incredibly efficient. It wasn't going to waste energy chasing every movement. It waited until the reward was close enough, easy enough, and worth the effort. Then it acted. These animals have survived for millions of years, partly because they conserve energy. They ignore almost everything until something truly matters. They may learn certain routines in captivity. They may become used to people. But trained doesn't necessarily mean tamed. Underneath everything, that ancient programming is still operating. Pure instinct, simple, fast, efficient. A couple of months ago, I read a book called Influence is Your Superpower by Zoe Chance. She uses almost exactly the same crocodile story, except hers took place in Florida. That reminded me of our experience in Thailand and made me think about how similar we are to those crocodiles in certain ways. We like to believe that human beings are completely rational. We imagine that we carefully consider every decision, weigh all the evidence, and then act logically. But much of our lives also happens on autopilot. We procrastinate. We eat things we promised ourselves we wouldn't eat. We buy things we don't need. We reach for our phones without consciously deciding to. We become defensive before understanding what another person meant. We avoid difficult conversations because discomfort feels unpleasant. We repeat the same patterns again and again. Then, after acting automatically, we come up with very intelligent explanations for why we did it. That is one of the strangest things about being human. We are not purely rational creatures. Very often, we are irrational creatures who are extremely good at explaining our irrational behavior in rational language. There's another brilliant book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He describes the mind through two broad systems. One system is fast, automatic, emotional, instinctive. For this conversation, let's call that part the gator. The other system is slower, deliberate, logical, reflective. Let's call that part the judge. These are mental models, by the way, not literal parts of the brain. The reality is much more complicated. but the model is helpful. The gator reacts. The judge reasons. The gator wants safety, comfort, approval, easy rewards, and immediate pleasure. The judge asks, is this wise? Is this aligned with my values? What will happen later? What is the right thing to do? The problem is that the gator usually speaks first. Imagine someone criticizes you. Before you've had time to think, your body may already have reacted. Your chest tightens, your face changes, your tone shifts, your ego wakes up. You feel the urge to defend yourself, attack, explain, or walk away. That's the gator. A few seconds later, if you pause and create a little space, the judge may enter the room. The judge might ask, what actually happened? Did they really mean it that way? Was that an insult, or could it be useful feedback? What kind of person do I want to be right now? But by then, the gator may already have taken the first bite. You may already have said something you regret. And this is where the metaphor becomes even more interesting. The gator doesn't only react, it also influences what the judge notices. Our emotions and expectations shape what appears important to us. That is one reason two people can experience the same event and tell themselves completely different stories. Someone gives feedback. One person thinks, they're trying to help me. Another thinks, they believe I'm not good enough. Same words, different filters. Someone doesn't reply to a message. One person thinks, they must be busy. Another thinks, they don't respect me. Same silence, different filters. A colleague succeeds. One person thinks, that's inspiring. What can I learn from them? Another thinks, their success makes me look smaller. Same success, different filters. Then the judge builds an argument based on what the gator has already highlighted. And the judge is clever, very clever. It can make almost any story sound logical. If the gator feels threatened, the judge can build a case for anger. If the gator feels jealous, the judge can build a case for resentment. If the gator wants comfort, the judge can build a case for procrastination. Sometimes what really happens is this. The gator wants something, and the judge becomes its lawyer. That is worth remembering. And intelligence doesn't necessarily protect us from this. Doctors, lawyers, scientists, teachers, executives, and parents all have gators. Sometimes intelligence simply makes our excuses more sophisticated. We tell ourselves, I thought carefully about this and made a rational decision. But perhaps the gator made the decision first, and the judge prepared the presentation afterward. Another important thing to understand is that the gator does not take requests. You cannot simply command yourselves never to feel afraid again. You cannot order yourselves to fall in love. You cannot reason yourselves into liking something you deeply dislike. You cannot say, from now on, I will never feel jealousy, insecurity, anger, or cravings again. Feelings don't work like that. They often arrive before permission. Your body reacts before your philosophy begins speaking. The Stoics understood this very well. They didn't believe we could control every first reaction. They understood that impressions arrive automatically. Someone insults you, a problem appears, a temptation presents itself. Your body reacts and your mind produces an immediate story. This is terrible. This is unfair. They disrespected me. I need this. That first movement is the gator, but the Stoics said there is a second stage. They called it assent. In simple language, assent means asking, do I agree with this first impression? Do I give it my signature? Do I allow it to become my action? That is where freedom begins. Freedom is not never feeling angry. It is noticing anger without becoming anger. It is feeling fear without allowing fear to make every decision. It is hearing the gator without automatically giving it the final vote. But there is another problem. The judge gets tired. Careful thinking consumes energy. Planning consumes energy. Resisting temptation consumes energy. Remaining patient consumes energy. Managing your emotions consumes energy. That is one reason we often make worse decisions when we're exhausted. It's why people become more impatient late at night. It's why we're more likely to eat badly, speak harshly, avoid responsibility, or give in to temptation after a long day. I do this myself too, not because I suddenly become a bad person, but because the judge is exhausted and the gator becomes louder. That is why relying only on willpower is a losing strategy. You cannot expect the judge to wrestle the gator all day, every day. Instead, you have to train the gator, because the gator is not your enemy. It is trying to protect you. It is trying to conserve energy, avoid danger, and find the easiest path. And in many situations, you need it. If a car suddenly drives toward you, you don't want the judge to prepare a detailed report before you move. You want the gator to react. If someone throws a ball at your face, you don't calculate the physics. You simply move. And if you practice something for many years, tennis, driving, speaking another language, public speaking, or reading the mood in a room, eventually the gator can become brilliant at those things. Fast thinking is not bad. Instinct is not bad. Emotion is not bad. The problem begins when we let the gator make decisions that require the judge. A craving is a gator moment. Your long-term health is a judge decision. A defensive reaction is a gator moment. Your character is a judge decision. An impulsive purchase is a gator moment. Your financial freedom is a judge decision. The gator is focused mainly on now. The judge is responsible for later. So what should we do? We don't try to destroy the gator. We couldn't do that even if we wanted to. And we certainly shouldn't try to become cold, emotionless, or robotic. The goal is simply to stop treating every feeling as a command. One of the greatest skills in life is the ability to pause. Pause before you reply. Pause before you buy. Pause before you judge someone. Pause before you walk away. Pause before you let a temporary emotion create a permanent consequence. That pause gives the judge time to enter the room. Sometimes wisdom only needs a few seconds. One breath, a little distance, a small space between what happens and what you do next. That space is where your character lives. Marcus Aurelius used to prepare himself in the morning by remembering that he would probably meet difficult, selfish, dishonest, and ungrateful people. He didn't do this because he wanted to begin his day negatively. He did it because he knew his first reaction might be irritation. So he prepared the judge before the gator was provoked. And that is why habits matter so much. A habit is what happens when the judge repeatedly trains the gator. At first, waking up early requires effort. Exercise requires effort. Telling the truth requires effort. Apologizing requires effort. Putting your phone away requires effort. Remaining calm during conflict requires effort. But after enough repetition, the gator learns, this is simply what we do. That is discipline. Not forcing yourself forever, not punishing yourself. Discipline is training your autopilot until good actions become more natural. Because much of your life will be lived partly on autopilot. The important question is, what kind of autopilot are you building? One that reaches for the phone every time life becomes quiet? One that becomes defensive whenever someone offers feedback? One that spends money whenever you feel unhappy? One that avoids responsibility? Or one that pauses, breathes, tells the truth, keeps promises, does the difficult but necessary thing? Your first reaction may not be your best response. Your first story may not be the true story. Your first desire may not reflect your deepest values. Your first fear may not represent a real danger. So remember this, inside you there is a gator and a judge. The gator is fast, the judge is slow. The gator reacts, the judge reflects. The gator gives you the first impression. The judge must decide whether to accept it. Don't hate the gator, train it. Don't worship the judge, use it. They need to work together. But when something important is at stake, your health, your future, your relationships, your character, your word, don't let the fastest part of you make the final decision. Pause. Bring in the judge and then act. Because the goal in life is not to become perfectly rational. That isn't possible. The goal is to become free. Free enough to feel an impulse without obeying it. Free enough to notice the easy path without automatically taking it. Free enough to hear the gator without allowing it to rule. And free enough to choose what is right, even when the raw chicken is hanging directly in front of your nose. That is self-control. That is wisdom. And that is one of the quiet ways you become the person you want to be. And do not ever forget, I love you both very, very much.